Yeah, welcome back to PHQ, a New Central Television. Now, weeks after the Labour Party pulled stunning results in the 2023 general elections, the party has gone from one issue to the other in what seems like a clash of desires and ambitions. The party has gone from its leadership tussle to current troubles with the position of its national youth leader despite its growing popularity amongst the Nigerian populace. The Labour Party came into the 2023 elections as an outsider, but has impressed many political observers with the strength of its current popularity, although that may be considered a huge success and progress from its previous level. Internal wranglings and in-party distractions continue to threaten its national perception. Recent developments have come in a wave, and today on Politics HQ, I have the special advisor to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party on Public Affairs, Dr. Katch, Ononuju, as we look at the party's current issues and possible solutions. Dr. Katch, Ononuju, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the program. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you kindly provide us with a detailed explanation of the current crisis within the Labour Party and its implications for the party's future?
Well, I believe a lot of the misconception does come from the reporting by the journalists.
Hello, Dr. Katch, are you there?
In Saba, which you would refer to as the NEC meeting. At that NEC meeting, the crisis of the party was viewed, and an internal problem of the party that was taken to the court was discussed. And based on what was discussed, suspensions were handed to members of the party who ran to court instead of internally seeking party reactions to these issues. And that's what it is. It's been pronounced severally by several courts. Such issues are internal affairs of the party. And in line with the court injunctions, the officers who were mentioned were set aside, and new people have been mandated to act in their place. As for the position of Mr. Papa was duly suspended by the National Executive Council of the party. Him with orders to rush to court to do these things. And in that case, Mr. Papa has gone on to actually publicly pronounce things that are not within his own controls. One, if the court asked those officers of the party to step aside, it is beholden on the party to, one, respect such pronouncements, two, mandate new officers to act. In that act, new officers are currently acting. So it is wrong for the press or a section of the press to still refer to Mr. Apapa as chairman. Mr. Apapa is not the acting chairman. There are people now acting for all the officers that were mentioned in the court case. As I speak to you now, the NEC of the Labour Party set up a disciplinary committee to look into the activities of those people who are doing the biddings of the other parties, which I must tell you is not new. We saw President Obasanjo use the machinations of people of the APP to undermine APP. And based on such historical truth, Mr. Peter Obi, in filing his case at the tribunal, did put his name. So all the noise the outsiders are using those disgruntled fellows to excite comes to naught, because as at the past 72 hours, Mr. Apapa did announce that he is withdrawing, if he had the power, the position of the Labour Party at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal. I don't think he has such powers. I believe you should stop regarding Mr. Papa as the chairman of the party. He does not have the power to make himself chairman. Mr. Papa, I have never seen him before. Mr. Papa, my principal, Mr. Peter Obi, have never met him before. Mr. Papa was suspended from the Labour Party before Mr. Peter Obi became the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. He has never set aside or shared same meeting room with Mr. Peter Obi, my principal. And I believe his suspension by the Labour Party, it's in order. And I think the press houses across the country should report accordingly the truth in regards to Mr. Papa's suspension by the next meeting where present were INEC officials, because such next meetings had been called well before Mr. Papa was hired to start his acrobatics, which we believe his recent pronouncement about disbanding the Presidential Campaign Council, which is not a member of, which he was never part of, because as at the time the Presidential Campaign Council was set up, Mr. Papa was still on suspension from the Labour Party arising from the crisis from the Akwanga conventions.
Now,
So
Doctor,
I
that brings me to this question, and I'm happy you've clarified things as much as you can, and that's why we invited you to this platform to give us a true state of how things are in the Labour Party and what led to the current situation we have. So my question to you, Dr. Katch, is could you clarify whether or not the Lamidi Papa-led faction of the party has requested the court to withdraw the petition filed by Mr. Peter Obi, and what led to this request? What evidence does the Aborowa-led group have to substantiate their claims that the Apapa-led faction asked the court to withdraw Mr. Peter Obi's petition? Because earlier today, Mr. Apapa, speaking to his spokesperson, did deny this. He said, he said it's the imagination of the Aborowa-led faction. What's your take on this?
First and foremost, Mr. Aborowa does not act anymore in obeyance of the court's order. There are people who are currently acting on behalf of Mr. Aborowa, and the officers so act to step aside by the courts. And I believe there is nothing like a faction in the Labour Party. If the court has acted that those gentlemen and officers step aside, yes, they have stepped aside, and the natural organogram of the Labour Party has produced those who are currently acting in their seat. So I do not want to refer to Mr. Papa as a factional leader. I do not think currently there exist factions. These are creations of the imagination of those who have been begging Mr. Peter Obi to please withdraw his case from the tribunal. Mr. Peter Obi, drawing from his experience in Anambra State, decided to put his name to the petition. And in line with our constitutional demands, whatever noise that comes from any group, it's inconsequential. I am telling you, Mr. Papa has not been returned back to the Labour Party, and he does not act on behalf of the Labour Party. What Mr. Papa is a fictional chairman of a group within the Labour Party who are working intentions to bring advantage to the APC at the presidential tribunal. But then not to say that there don't exist a crisis. Of course there is. Since we came in to use the Labour Party as a platform, it's been that way, and we believe those are machinations that are orchestrated by those who intend to react negatively to the current national organic movement. And that's another thing. please do not mix up the Labour Party with the obedient movement. The obedient movement is a totally different thing from the Labour Party. So I do not see the internal issues and challenges of the Labour Party affecting in any great way the progression of the obedient movement and its national ethos. We intend to bet a new country. We intend to provide the leadership capabilities of Mr. Peter Obi to be used in resetting Nigeria. And that's why we are doing what we're doing. It's got nothing to do for the Labour Party. Yes, Labour Party is a platform which we are using, but please, parties do have crisis. I do not want you to start to imagine that because the Labour Party is currently challenged, that the obedient movement or even the petition brought about by Mr. Peter Obi suffers any issue. No, it does not. We are as resolute.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to tell our followers and as strong as we've ever been. Peter is a very experienced man. He's using his Anambra experiences at the tribunal where he got out of government 2 people who were sworn in. And he went to the tribunal and defeated them after they were sworn in. So we are not new to where we are today. Okay. And I believe if anybody can bring that successful challenge, it is Mr. Peter Obi.
Now, thank you very much for clarifying on that, and also stating that the obedient movement is different from the Labour Party's internal crisis. They're not part of that. Now, you also talked to the point of political parties having crises, families too. It's not always rosy. But what steps is the Labour Party taking to resolve the crisis and reunite the party? And what specific measures are being put in place to ensure that issues like this do not arise in the future? Because there's serious implications from all of what is happening on the future of the party.
I do not think the internal affairs of parties are things we can wish away. But I can tell you, it would be wrong for anybody to think that the current crisis is new now. Parties in incumbent positions always instrument acrobatics like this when they are challenged at tribunals every time after a general election. We saw President Obasanjo employ Ali Modu Sheriff to scuttle the party intentions of the AMPP, of the APP. But those are the reasons that informed Mr. Peter Obi, my principles, putting his name to the petition. And as the law says, if all the parties to the petition do not agree, the petition shall continue at the tribunal. It was, as Mr. Peter Obi described, his experience during the Anambra State governorship where Mr. Onyechi, SAN, advised him, do not remove your name, put your name, so that should the party get compromise on its way, you will continue to remain. And with that experience, Mr. Peter Obi put his name. So those acrobatics do not mean. But in regards to the internal crisis of the Labour Party, I believe the neck of the party has set up a disciplinary committee to look into the crisis that had engulfed the party since the 2018 convention at Akwanga, and then those issues that came from it, plus the current acrobatics by the Apapa-led group in the courts. I believe it would not be proper for me to prefer a way forward now. I believe Labour has the internal strength to be able to resolve itself. And locally for Labour, the association, a new leadership has taken hold, led by Mr. Joe Ajaero. I believe with Mr. Ajaero, we'll be able to rebuild the party, we'll be able to really make it a national party, we'll be able to change the Labour Party from a subservient platform for civil servants to a party ready to govern. I believe that would not be too much to wish for. I believe that would not be impossible to accomplish. I believe that very desirable duty is a duty members of the labor union will know that it's necessary for them to actually own a platform that can be trusted to govern.
Now,
I
Dr.
think this is incredible.
Now, Dr. Katch, looking at the performance of the Labour Party in the last general elections, it did surprise many who initially dismissed it as a, social media party. They said things like they didn't have a structure, but the results shocked many pundits and naysayers. And young Nigerians, quite a lot of them, associate themselves with the Labour Party. Now, going forward, do you think this crisis will affect the performance of the Labour Party in future? And also, a lot of the backbone of the Labour Party is on the personality and the person of your principal, Mr. Peter Obi. Do you see this as positive for the party? Because in a situation where one man seems to is very powerful, very instrumental to the party. There are other elective positions also that Labour Party members vie for, but if they don't have that OB endorsement or that OB effect, they most times do not come out successful.
Oh, well, I think you're also making the mistake of misrepresentation of what's on the ground. It's got nothing to do with Mr. Peter Obi. Mr. Peter Obi is a fictitious employee of the masquerade owned by the youths. Mr. Peter Obi was simply employed to provide a face to a masquerade owned by the youths. What we are experiencing is an organic movement. We came, and when we saw the availability of that organic movement, and we saw the cascade of emotions all over the country, we decided to take a chance. And then those cascade of emotions crystallize into the youth following us. It's got nothing to do with Peter. Peter was simply a good enough person to be employed by the youth. It's a youth revolution. It's a youth-driven ballot revolution. It's not about Peter. It's about the youth. It's about the people of Nigeria. It's about the people who, in majority, whom we read correctly, wanted to chart a new path for our country. So we not saw that. And some of us in the PDP, we broke off. About 3 or 4 joined Mr. Peter Obi, and we started that. And when we started, some people, as you rightly pointed out, did not give us any iota or modicum of hope. They said no. Some said we were just 4 people tweeting in a room. We were not 4 people tweeting in a room. We were simply intelligent intellectuals who understood the mood of the country, and we simply took advantage of the cascade of emotions littered all over the country, and suddenly a movement was born. That's what it is. It was not started by Mr. Peter Obi, no. The youth were on the streets demanding for a better society when the Buhari administration violently used guns to suppress them. We now saw that those youths were still there. And when we moved, when we thought the PDP had become a Siamese twin to the APC, we then came to work with the youth. And the youth saw in Peter Obi somebody with the characters that they could trust. That was why they now employed him to provide a face for their masquerade. What we then saw as we started with the youth was much bigger than Peter Obi, was much, much larger than the Labour Party. It has today become Africa's most historical movements politically in size. We already have worldwide members. We have members from Australia to England, from India to United States, and they call themselves members of the obedient movement.
Now, Dr. Katch, Ononuju, if you permit me to, just as we begin to wrap up, if you can, in less than 2 minutes, I'd appreciate. What message do you have for party members and supporters as they navigate this crisis? And what steps can they take to ensure that the Labour Party remains a stronger, united political force?
Stay behind Mr. Peter Obi. Don't follow those whose acrobatics may deceive members of the public. The words of Mr. Papa are rhetorics he's been taught by the APC, but we will not be deterred by such acrobatics. Any politician who intends to work with us, look towards Mr. Peter Obi and the Labour Party, National Working Committee and National Executive Council. Don't be distracted by the machinations of such paid people like Mr. Papa and his people. Look at the larger Labour Party family. Look at the direction of the NLC. Look at the position that Mr. Peter Obi is owing. That is where we're going to. As I said earlier, don't allow the internal acrobatics of the Labour Party to deceive you about the focused movement of the obedient movement. The obedient movement is bigger than Mr. Peter Obi, is bigger than the Labour Party.
Okay.
I want Nigerians to keep hope alive, remembering that we will not let them down. We are strong at the tribunal. We will not go away or forget the mandate given to us. We shall fight at the tribunal. Okay. We shall prove our case. And whatever it comes, we will stay on the path of the rule of law.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for your insights and contributions. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Katch Ononuju, Special Advisor to His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.